Namaskar. I'm Kumar Rakesh, and you are watching Global Governance News TV. Today, we're going to discuss politics for development or development for vested interest politics. If you see why the vested interest in politics, and if you see the recent research on this, that is the main reason for this vested interest in the dynasty. And if you see the possibility of showdown between the Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush that time, U.S. presidential polls have some political pundits salivating, but perhaps many more Americans wondering is political power became too concentrated in U.S. And I'm talking about the elections, political dynasty, and basically vested interest. And Bush or Clinton was president or vice president in U.S. for almost 30 years between 81 and 2009, a dynastic run that may yet to be extended, uh, uh, whatever you have seen now. An elected politician related by the blood or marriage are considered part of the political dynasty, and their relevance of democratization and economic development applies to both developed and developing democracies. Recent efforts to estimate the share of dynasties in various democratic parliaments indicate they may range as low as 6% in US to high as 75% in Philippines. This is related to the vested interest politics. That's why I'm giving you the figure and data. And Philippines and 75%, India, that is the Bharat, 24%, Greece, 10%, Thailand, 42%, Mexico, 40%, Japan, 33%, Ireland, 22%, Argentina, 10%, and United Nations, I think, less, and 6%. So if the this type of the dynastic things are lower, so we can see the how the socio-economic condition influence the policies and the political interest and political developments. And this is also a matter of the competitiveness and the dominance. The dynastic politician often point to the family's strong track record as the main reason for the stay power in office. As you say, in the India, how just one Gandhi family and so-called Gandhi family tried to rule the country, but now after 2014, definition has been changed. And if you see the well-known dynastic politician in the Philippines retorted, "Let the people decide." What does it mean? Many have also noted how dynasty is able to secure policy continuity by turning over reform agenda to the younger generation within the same family. For instance, Lee Kuan Yew, one of the longest-serving heads of a state in democratic world, managed this for his own son, Lee Hsien Loong, now Prime Minister of Singapore that time, and there is also growing evidence that the dominance of political clans concentrate too much political power, crowds and alternative leaders, and debilitates the political parties. So there is so many example. I read political scientists from the UC Berkeley and UCLA examine the staying power of members of US Congress from 1789 to 1996. They found evidence that congressmen who on were more likely to have relatives elected into future legislatures. Being in power, not simply being skilled, just you find that not simply being skilled in the Indian politics, also the Bharat politics, a strong factor behind the dynastic perpetuation. And additional research also links political dynasty to stunted political and economic development. In case of Philippines, studies trace many of the dynastic politicians in Congress to land-owning families and accumulated their agrarian properties during the Spanish and American colonial periods. These early patterns have since evolved into new forms of economic holdings. And in Philippines, political analysts observe the dynastic politicians invest in family members to continue their policies rather than strengthen political parties. Fielding relatives appear to be cheaper is their offers economists to scale due to family name recall, and in some cases, a strong historical patron-client relationship that serve to secure dynastic advantage in the polls. So, as well as this, in the parliaments of Bharat, also in the Philippines, studied expensive data, and density share in the state level in India is negatively correlated. And similar analysis focused on political dynasties as for the Philippines and other countries. We have seen it, and how the all person concerned try to be the vested interest uh, in politics. How and why the vested interest arises, what's the reason behind it, how it is correlated with the development. We'll discuss today on this matter. So we have Dr. Ram P. Bhatt from the Germany, and he's a scholar and academician, and uh, Vandana Jhinganji, a senior journalist and social activist from the Chicago. So, just Dr. Ram, but how just you analyze this? This is theoretical and practical term both. So, how we can just you think on the two politically related terminology, the political development or development for the vested interest politics. That's I also mentioned about the dynasty. Also, the main reason for the vested interest politics, just to promote. Thank you.
Many thanks, Rakesh ji. Yes, interesting topic, and my greetings to Vandana ji and other panelists if they are there, and the viewers. The development, when you look at the definitions, especially in a democracy or democratic setup, then it is the basically the betterment of the people, of the public. Any policy that is implemented or that is made by the governments must be in favor of the public and public betterment, not self betterment, not self promotion. So, what basically happened, you see, right after the independence of India, we see that it was already even before India became independent, because we India had so many kings and princes, and then of course also British regime, and before that Mughal era, and so on and so forth. And I think we never came over that. India never managed to come out of that that kind of scenario or setup, or political regimes. So after becoming independent, one would think, okay, India should progress quickly, because there were almost everything. There was nothing that India didn't have. They had, of course, manpower, and there were the ways they could have done. Of course, the education and the development infrastructure was not that well then. But that was all over the world, because the world was anyway suffering from the world wars, and people were, of course, poor, and things were going other way around. So, good or bad, I don't know. But when the first Prime Minister of India, when he laid down the development programs, it seems that they were in many ways well thought in some ways, but there were few other problems that did cause a lot of another problems. And I think the plannings of developmental programs were not well researched. They were made somewhere up there, and when it came to the ground level, to the implementation of the programs, it never happened, or never was that successful as it was actually envisaged. Then you goes to 60, and then you see, of course, what happens after Lal Bahadur Shastri. You see then, in fact, the again the dynastic politics is starting with Indira Gandhi. If Lal Bahadur Shastri were still there, maybe the things would have been different. But since we don't know what happened to him, so one presumes there was something wrong, and somebody may have committed something. So these are presumptions. So we don't know what happened. But that was of course, the time when the dynastic politics is, taking the shape, and then 70s, you see the, what happens, that everybody knows. I don't have to talk about that. And then in 80s, after the death of Indira Gandhi, I mean the brutal murder of Indira Gandhi, in fact, it becomes even more severe, because then there is no kind of, very strong politician in India that can contain all these different parties, small leaders who are only doing their own, politics, vested interest politics. 90s saw these huge problems, and then comes, of course, 2004 and to 2014. This was the extreme, I think. And 2014, finally, India saw something new. So this was probably that, the good luck of Indians, that, some new person comes and takes over and with the majority. The politics of family politics or the dynasty politics in India is a huge problem even today. Look what is in happening in Tamil Nadu. You see this in Maharashtra with Sharad Pawar, with the Shiv Sena. You see it in West Bengal. You see it in Uttar Pradesh, of course. Samajwadi Party in Bihar, in Jharkhand, Shibu Soren, and Punjab as well. So, of course, to me, when I look at these developments or these things from outside, the scenario is exactly when you look at the history of India, political history of India. When we are in somewhere in 1910, between that period and 30s, so a lot of problems were there, and that was the so the good thing that could happen to India and Indian people is that this regime change came, and then lot of new programs came up, which were implemented or are being implemented, because before that people were fed up with the all corruptions. You see that corruptions happen only to promote the families and at any cost. So I don't want to name call here, but we all know what I mean, and this should not happen. The quality and competency must be the foremost priority for any topmost politician and the person who leads the nation, even not the only the nation but the state as well, and even at the district level and village level, because competency is important and not the person. And
Yeah,
this is the problem in India, because that there are people who are there for last 18 years, 16 years, and are even not able to to do a thing properly, even not to able to speak the language properly. This is ridiculous. This should not happen. If you want to be a politician, you really need to be very well versed, and you really need to be, honest, and you really need to be close to the people. And you cannot play as a prince or as a princess, or that, and say that Indians are the subject of the family, that one family. This is ridiculous in my opinion. But of course, when you look at other points, maybe losing the family members, that is understandable why somebody can become emotional, but that should not go should not have cause should not cause any compromise with the quality of development and the developmental programs of the nation and betterment of the people, because people need at least the basic amenities. I tell you, the area I come from, I was born in a village
yeah,
where even till recently there was no road, no electricity. And I can tell you where in conditions that I went to school and I studied, it's
yeah,
just that the good luck that you make it to here. But it was terrible. And the corruption, everywhere corruption. Even I think I told you last time, when I was supposed to go to, Germany for the job, I got the job. And the simple thing was that I needed to get some document
yeah,
attested.
yeah.
And it took me 2-3 months to get them attested.
Now time has been changed,
And,
Ramji.
yeah,
Now time has been changed now.
this is
Yeah,
what I am saying, because
yeah.
now,
This
since
time has,
the
most of
since
the
the,
90%
no no
work,
no
90%
no
work
I'm,
they are not digitalized
no no
on
no
the
see,
digital platform.
one more thing. the current government or the government between 14 19 made the decision, which was wonderful, and people should think about that. That self attest is enough. You attest your document yourself. You take the responsibility. This is a huge change for me because I had to go, run from post to pillar, from a district magistrate, SDM, Patwari, Pradhan, and so on and so forth. And it took me 3 months. And now think about that. My 3 months salary, the hassle and the money I spent on that. And there used to be the touts everywhere. Even outside of the Foreign Secretary of India in New Delhi, I had to go there for some signatures, some attestment, and you can't imagine how many touts were there. And somebody even wanted to snatch these papers from me and wanted to have money that he could get it, would get it done for me. You see, this was a scenario. Now it is not there. This is a huge development. So these small things, they make a huge change in daily life of the people. They look very insignificant. They are not insignificant. They are
No,
very, very
actually,
important.
that's okay, Ramji. But you talk about the quality and the competitiveness. How the person is competitive in society and the quality in the people. That is just to lead to the curb the corruption. One, but that is also create the corruption. Vandana ji, there's a quality. If you talk about the quality and the uh, competitiveness, so, do you think that in interest of the India politics, Bharat politics, or in the USA, how do you define? As we just saw the data that in US, this is a dynasty politics is a very less, 6%, but there is something. Where 6%, 75% in Philippines, that is difference. But India is only 24%, but there is already dominating. So how we competitive the US and just I'll take the next question to Germany. How Ramji just you comparatively think and how the society is going for the corruption free. Vandana ji.
Namaskar, Ramji and Kumar Rakeshji, and to our viewers. As you brought a subject, and especially happy Saturday to everybody. We are talking about because on the path of Dharma, the cycle always goes on. There is no
Yeah,
Saturdays and there is no Sundays.
yeah,
Interesting subject. Like, on the we just announced the election dates in India in the 5 states, and
mhm.
it is coming now. People have been waiting for it because there was a lot of if and but during. They say there is Omicron variant being there due to
Yeah.
the pandemic, so it should
We
be
are in
pushed.
Delhi. There's 2 days curfew from the last
Yeah,
12
weekend. Yeah,
o'clock to Monday
yeah.
5 o'clock morning.
But then they say this is a process in democracy, it has to go on. They always say we are the people, show must go on, like,
Yeah,
so that's what
yeah.
it is, rain or sunshine, snow or sun. So coming back to this subject of ours in today's time, like, when we talk about the vested interest in the politics, we will still see the how what is the vested interest and why it arises. There is always an invariable reasons, because certain people get benefit out of the schemes, the institutions they carry out by the government, to be honest, like, let's talk about the politics and the vested interest. People, those who are, you said the percentage, because the 6% in the US about our population, like a 300 million, and 24% in India, where the population is 1.4 billion. So you can very well imagine the number, the differences. Here, things are mostly, if you see that there are families, Kennedy family, then we had, uh, means not many you will see following the steps of it, because you have to prove. But in Bharat, it has not been there, because when there was a Chara episode in Bihar, so they made this wife of Lalu Yadav, the chief minister. Forget about that. On the context of the person who has no ABC of the politics, he was just a son of a prime minister. at the time of the assassination, and he being a pilot who used to means drive the planes on the instructions, has been asked to lead the nation and give instructions. Such a mockery of the democracy. I'm being, on what basis? मेरी माँ मर गई तो तुझे प्रधानमंत्री बना दिया. So was he not like, he, if I be there, no, I am not, because I have no experience. There were other leaders also in the party. That itself is a very biggest joke when we talk about it. And the same family is going into the dynastic mode. When we talk about Kumar Rakesh ji, democracy versus dynasty, India is the largest democracy of the world. We talk about that, we always claim. On the contrary, on the other side of it, the ruling party, we don't see many people coming. And uh, Ram Bhattji was including the names. There is one name in the state of Andhra and Telangana, which has been the Reddys, like Rajashekhar Reddy and all their family. Why we let them? Because without, see, there has to be some experience. It's the same thing happening in each and every profession. A kid is born, like, you get to, we're talking about the film industry of India. Everyone is jumping into their shoes. The kid is born and they think that he is going to be son of a king and so on, in spite of the fact, yes, he is the prince, but into the other sense of it. He is proved, like, into the drugs and all, like we saw that in the NCB's 28 days of it. You come on a talent, you earn the position, then it is different. But if you just get that, means platter pay, so there is neither you will be able to deliver, and that is what is happening. And there are certain businesses, how this vested interests do work. Sometimes they are not even coming into the politics, means like the dynasty, the family, but they will be inculcated in those kind of businesses and trades, let this be insurance or the defense, so that they can get the benefit out of it. Like, because defense is a very big procurement, like, getting the commissions or the cuts and all and all. So that has to be looked into. The people have to know who are the people getting the deals done. Why can't we have it? We just saw very recently when I think Bharat got the Rafale, what was a quote earlier, and how things were finalized finally. So that is very, very clear a picture for people to see. It is very important for the people. Now, it is not the same generation, Ram Bhattji, when you and me, we left India at that very time. Awakening awareness and accepting, which is for the benefit of our future, present and future, which is important. Not running for freebies, but reforms, like, danda पीर है बिगड़िया तिगड़िया, they always say that. अगर किसी को समझ नहीं आता है तो उसको एक दूसरी भाषा से समझाना चाहिए, because then that is why we need the reform. So how can we say that any number of people, Kumar Rakesh ji, are educated? Yes. Are you really going to call them educated or literate when we see that repeated results of the politics? First term you gave it to Delhi, the same guy, Aam Aadmi lead, and then he gets a second term also by seeing the delivery, what he has done, on what basis? So somewhat we are also responsible. No, somewhat
free.
Yeah,
light free, light free, water free, and but now he's making the fool all of us. Just you mentioned about that. This is also part of the vested interest politics.
Somewhat we are also responsible for it.
Yeah, we are responsible. You are right.
We are responsible. How could we close our eyes? And we can, because these are termites, and then they grow very fast. You have seen it on the policies of his. Now your Akhilesh Yadav is announcing, I will also give free. What the hell? Where from you are going to get? Apne baap ka khisa kholega ki free dega? Wo kholo na. That's what. But that is where the problem is. I don't want anything free. I want to earn. And that, with that zeal, if people decide, we can have a good governance. The government we elect the government, but the governance is also our responsibility, who is like they are delivering. If we start rejecting, I don't want
Yeah,
anything free, how will they be able to?
yeah. So, Bandana, you just we are talking of the free politics for free, politics for the, that is also the main cause and reason for the vested interest, and that's the people turns after elected. Just you mentioned, I'll take the on this issue and the detail with Dr. Ram Bhattji. Just time of break, and after break we'll come again and discuss the issue. Thank you. Uh, Dr. Ram Bhatt, just how Vandana ji just explained and shared her views, the vested interests arise always and invariably because certain people benefit when government institutions carry out programs and policies. Wherever there are government institutions, there are people and groups with vested interest in what those institutions do. There is in a structure and operation, or in their funding, allocation of resources. And vested interests are truly a universal phenomenon, not from the for the India and every states we can find, and every country you have seen, and they need to be made central to any theoretical understanding of the politics of the institutional reform. That's why they are in the analytic core of the discussion just we are going to discuss. And this is also the classic vested interests are the business firms also in the different states, either in USA and Bharat and Germany and wherever. There is just insurance company and pharmaceutical companies in US example have a vested interest in their healthcare system because their revenues are deeply rooted in the way of system they organize. Defense contractors like that, weapon systems, the programs and funds for the weapon system, airplanes, vehicles, satellites, like that. So how just you think, do you think that these tools of the vested interest can be curbed or maybe institutionalized, whatever, after 2014, the Prime Minister of India, Bharat, just have done very good new initiative taken just to curb this type of small and big corruptions also. What a program is the Made in India, and just you see India and the globalize India and Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat. With these small programs, are trying to do it in our country. So, just how do you think that there is something this type of vested interest politician and politics in Germany and other European states, or just already I have given data, Philippines to US 75% to 6%. So
Yeah, like you see, yes. Well, this is, as you said, is universal phenomena.
yeah,
But in one country it is less, in other it is more,
yeah,
and that's how it is. So when we think about India and Europe, or let me say Germany, well, there is corruption also at higher level. But
yeah.
you see, there is a kind of proper system there in place. you know
Okay.
for example, if you get some extra money from somewhere in your account, it is checked. It will be, in the end of the year, financial year, when you do your taxation, then of course the issue comes up, and you will be caught. So this is why I think one wonderful thing that could happen to India is that this Aadhaar card scheme, because through Aadhaar card, I think this will be, possible to curb some at least some to some extent the such kind of problem when it is about the liquidity. When liquidity is going, or being transferred from one place to one account to another account. And another good, I think, program is the Mudra Yojana, which was started, I think, in 2015, that people have their own accounts. So when people have their own accounts, then of course there is no middleman in between. Earlier it used to be like this. even the Gram Pradhan and others and Sachiv and so on and so forth, they were the people who were playing this. They would get money and then they would go to the person, the beneficiary, and give it maybe even 1/10 or 1/20, even 1/4 of the amount to the person. And that was the main reason also that the corruption kept growing, and these people with vested interest, of course, they have a lot of programs to finance. They have to keep the mouth shut, among them, so many people, maybe journalists, others, and other people who are involved in that projects. And it was admitted by the Indian Prime Minister himself. He said, I send 100 rupees and people get 10 rupees or something, 1 rupee and 10 paisa, something like this. So I really hope that this has changed now. And I
Now
think,
that perception, now that perception and concept was now finished. Now in this new government of the Modi government, this is a matter of fact. 1 rupee
yes,
is spent by already 1 rupee is reached. No
yes.
cut
So,
in
so,
between now.
so what I'm saying, what I'm trying
Yeah,
to explain that,
directly transfer. Yeah.
this is how the corruption can be fought. The vested interest will be always there. They will try this way or that way, which we see already. And nowadays, because in India, the what we call this mm, housing system and real estate and so on and so forth, it has become one of the most very striking area where people make a really lot of money. And there is also corruption, because lot of people, they get the buy the land for cheaper price and sell it overnight 100 times more, or even 1,000 times more. So there have been reportings about that. This also has to be curbed, because that area is, I think, it is still open as far as I know, and this is a huge problem in this country where I'm living. For example, when I bought my house here, so there was from the beginning, the people were informed. My bank informs everyone else. The state is informed that this person, or from this account, this much amount, this money is going, that being sent to this and that account. So automatically, this the traces are there, so nothing will go unrecorded. And even whatever you pay to the lawyer and to other people, who even the middlemen, if there are for example there, they charge it openly, and then they have to pay tax on that. But that is also now slowly going away from this country. And I think when people take the decision making process in their own hands, this will also be fought at largely. But it will always remain there, because the people with vested interest have so many ways, especially when you talk about the technology, use of technology. So this is unfortunately the area where only people together can fight the problem. I think the governments cannot do alone. So people need to be also aware, and people need to work together with the government, and then it will be possible. Um, it is happening, you see, because
Yeah. Yeah.
we
Got it.
have reports that when the corrupt magistrate is being caught, or policeman is being caught, or politicians, this is happening. And what Vandana ji was pointing out, of course, the business, this is also there. But I think because of the this the taxation system, the changes in taxation system, that will also will be probably helpful. But you see, we have to admit it, that India is a huge country that cannot be compared with the country of 8 crores like Germany, and the infrastructure that was here built, and this is already quite old enough. That will it will take time for India to come to that level. And apart from that, you see, we have
Okay.
many more problems. You cannot leave out, for example, you cannot leave out the religious problems and corruption apart, because they are also embedded into each other. Because
Okay.
in the name of religion, a lot of corruption happens, and also a lot of funds are raised and they are misused. Uh, Also, the land, we know in India, it doesn't matter which religion, but they have their own kind of system, you know. So this is also the area which will be very difficult to control, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So, just already you mentioned, just to curb the corruption. If you see, Vandana ji, the leaders in the charge of a government, the politician, party leaders, upper level bureaucrats, and upper level, I mean to say, are either just three M in in our country, Bharat, PM, CM, and DM, and DM, CM, and PM. The three M's are powerful in the system, whatever system has been made. So they often have the vested interest. All the politician, party leaders, and upper level bureaucrats have vested interest in programs and institutions as well, as we know. And these interests tend to be especially intense and consequential in less developed nations, where all too often leaders use part of government to purpose of patronage, corruption, and economies, and where institutional system is seemingly benign the social goals, education system, and whatever, and just plunder the youth because of the money, jobs, opportunities for the and, others. So how just my question is how we can curb in either in India and either any part of the world wherever we see these types of patronage by the politician to the system. How can you delink one? How can you stop that?
Namaste again. As you said, there are no checks and balances, to be honest, which is
Yeah.
missing because there has to be kept an eye on. Like you mentioned about the DM, the powers that the DM has got. Like, so is he really who is looking after? Because when you have just a free hand, nobody's there to look after. Oh, I have become now. And some people get to this bureaucracy that IAS that they have to take, like, the power in their hand, and they know once a bureaucrat, I can be a politician tomorrow, to be honest, and some way other way go, because they know.
Today in Uttar Pradesh, UP, one IPS, Asim Arun, just quit the system and just joined the BJP. And I think he's going to fight the election. So we can say if he was in the IPS and police service, what we are doing? Just to favoring the one party and others. This also should be changed.
Yeah, that, and another thing, that's what I just said, when I say checks and balances.
Yeah.
Okay, he wants to do it, but it should not have happening right away that he has joined the politics, he got the ticket, superseded so many people, because at that very time when he was a uniform officer, like, as he must have done a lot of favors now which he's trying to encash, that itself is vested. So there has to be a time gap. Again, it comes back to the reforms kind of thing. Do we have something in place, but not at the name of the democracy, that you leave all these people unleashed? There has to be, because that is what, where the biggest problem, Kumar Rakesh ji, we are seeing it, because there is, again, I'm saying that nobody is taking care, like, for the sake of, when we talk about the nation should be first, what that you have done for the nation. Because in the role here, I will bring out, uh, I'm I just had a meeting yesterday when we talked that I had to go. I met somebody. He came to US before even like I came to this world, to be honest. And he said at that very time, the salary difference of a manufacturer, like who's I mean, working in the manufacturing field, like an employee, and the CEO used to be 1 into 30. I swear on God, he said like 1 into 30. I got up from my seat. I could not. I really want. I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "All this is recorded." And now, how much is it? We all know that. We all know that how much it is, because the disparities and this and that is again a vested interest. That itself is.
8 year, 8 plus. I got just yeah, you are a very interesting point you raised. However, they're running the time, only 1.5 minutes we have. But I guess to mention one point. I was traveling from London to New Delhi. One person just met in the flight. He was coming from the Denmark to Bharat. I think matter of 2013, 12 or 13. And when they talk to introduce to each other, what were coming from the Denmark to India and Delhi, he was just company working some survey and I think research based company.
Research.
So they are coming from there to research based and going to meet a one bureaucrat.
Yeah. So,
All tickets stay arranged by that bureaucrat on the official money. Why they call that only that company in the name of the outside country? How much they paid? Why they paid? There is no any such company in India and Bharat. This type of matters just already uh, we can just analyze the vested interest of the concern. As we said, just talk about the bureaucracy and the politician.
there are so many fabricated companies. You can
Yeah.
make them on paper, which
No, but more
really
than
have
3 lakh
no.
company already, shell company is already closed by this government.
Yeah.
If you're talking the Ram Bhaji, I think more than about 3 lakhs. Aadhaar card was cancelled. It's an Uttarakhand. They are all taking the money for the Muslim scholarship,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
the crores of funds. This is already just stopped by this government. That was all the money of the taxpayer of the country money.
Yeah.
So that's I think we'll just discuss on this issue. This is not a small issue, and we'll continue with the focus and highlight time to time how this is about the public money and just about the taxpayer money going to be the for the better cause or just for the invent. So that is also a matter of fact. So nice of you joined this show, and we'll continue this discussion accordingly further on. Just,
Thank
Jai
you.
Hind.
Thank you.